So my name is Beth. I work for Forward Action. I work at Forward Action. I'll talk a little bit around who we are in a second. But today, I'm going to talk to you about using a digital tool to actually generate offline action and kind of what we did to do that. So this is me. I go on quite a few hair journeys, so I don't look like that now, and I certainly didn't look like that last year either. I had a pink buzz cut. But yeah, very excited. I'm off to Glastonbury tomorrow, so I've got the prep ready and done. So yeah, I'm a digital strategy manager. I work at Forward Action. We are a digital mobilization agency. We work with lots of charities and non-profits and basically help them kind of embed digital mobilization in their work. So digital mobilization is basically a kind of route to kind of creating a movement online of people who are super engaged, they really align with your values, and you basically try and recruit as many people as possible who, like, as I say, align with your values and then are prepared to basically take meaningful actions for you at scale. And you kind of recruit them through lots of the tools that the guys were talking about before, kind of hand raisers, quizzes, anything that's really engaging, anything that aligns to their values. And then you can you get their contactable data, and then you're able to talk to them and build a relationship over years and kind of keeping in contact and putting loads of great things in front of them to do to kind of help you achieve your mission. So today I'm going to be talking about a project that we ran with one of our partners, Dignity in Dying. So this was the team for the project. It was us at Forward Action and Dignity in Dying. If you're not aware of who they are, they're a brilliant organisation who are campaigning to legalise assisted dying. So we were working with them on a project which was around, there was a bill that they're trying to pass that was going to its second reading stage, which is where peers of the House of Lords will debate the bill. So that was kind of sort of where this project kind of came from. So in terms of what I'm going to talk through today, I'm going to talk a little bit around the background of the project, so why the project happened, what the challenge was, and then I'll get into the kind of nitty-gritty of what we did, so that creating that online tool and how that converted kind of offline real-world action. I'll talk through the results. I think we're all excited to see them. And then I've got 3 top tips for if this is something that you might want to take forward. And I guess sort of thinking about this in terms of your work, particularly if you're an organisation that does kind of campaigning work at all, this could be quite interesting for when you're, when you kind of have bills that are kind of coming up, or anything where you're wanting to contact people in a slightly different way to how you usually contact them around kind of key campaigns. So this is the background. I've spoken a little bit around who Dignity in Dying are, but effectively their mission is to change the law on assisted dying for terminally ill, mentally competent adults. So as I mentioned, there was a huge opportunity for Dignity in Dying to have impact in relation to this bill. The bill was coming up to the second reading stage, as I say, which is when all of the peers basically get in a room, start debating it, and hopefully vote it through. And that's how the bill then will move on to the next phase. So what we needed to do was basically influence peers to support the bill. But we had a challenge. We've spoken a little bit around age being a kind of issue of digital means in the kind of previous talk. That is true of peers. They also don't have a kind of similar setup in terms of like MPs, MSPs. They don't have loads of people that in their office that can like help them with their emails. So kind of mass email to target actions aren't super motivating or super impactful for peers. And we also had this piece of information that Dignity in Dying came to us with, this insight that peers are really will be much more heavily influenced by physical letters. They want to see it in writing. They want the old school version of communication. So that was kind of our challenge and something that we kind of wanted to look at, how we could use digital means to basically get people writing physical letters. The issue wasn't a scale issue. So we've been working with Dignity in Dying on and off for 4 years now. No, not on and off. On for 4 years now. Together we've been able to kind of recruit over 300,000 supporters in quite a short amount of time. These are really, really engaged people. They take lots of campaigning and donating and like other kind of volunteering fundraising actions for Dignity in Dying. So kind of supporter scale wasn't wasn't where we were going to fall down here. It was about having the right tool. Like, how do we actually get people writing physical letters at scale to try and like mobilize people, and how can we use digital to help us get there? So this was our challenge. How do we mobilize Dignity and Dying supporters using digital to send physical paper letters to peers? So this is what we did. We used an Engage in Networks sign-up page that we kind of recreated with using JavaScript. So this was a landing page, and I'll talk through the journey in just a second. But effectively, yes, we created this journey, which took people through different steps in order to write a letter online and then converted it. And all they needed to do was download it and print it off and send it in the post. So just focusing on this, which is the kind of first landing page, it is quite wordy. I think we wouldn't typically go for particularly wordy pages, but as this is quite a high bar action, and there is quite a bit of political context that not everybody knows, we did kind of make it a bit wordier. So sort of looking at the landing page, the kind of key things that we had in there, we were explaining what was going on. There's a new bill, it's going through Parliament. This is the first time in 6 years. This could be like one of our key chances. The second bit was making it kind of timely and urgent. We said, this is when the debate's happening. We need you to help us by then. And we also spoke about the fact, we were like quite candid with supporters about the fact that the reason why we're asking them to write letters, which is kind of, a bit of a faff, really, is because of peers not kind of having the staff to sort of help kind of take them through that journey. And then we went on to say that it was quick and easy to do, to try and motivate people to do that. So this is a kind of simple data capture form. As I say, we used kind of JavaScript to sort of design it up and kind of give ourselves the opportunity to put more of the content and the kind of persuasive why on that page. And then in terms of the sort of onwards journey, we then moved into what I'm calling the letter writing page. And what you can see there is that there's quite a few text boxes with lots of text above it. And we actually decided that the best way to kind of go about taking people and making it as easy for people to take this journey was by prompting people about what to write. We know that it's really motivating for people to share personal stories, and Dignity and Dying are an organisation that have lots of their supporters have a real personal connection to cause and want to share their stories. And those stories are like one of the most impactful ways of influencing decision makers. So what we did is we asked them 3 questions, and we put them kind of some prompt text in there, and we had these sort of free text form fields where people could answer the questions in their own words, and it was super personal. Once people filled that page out and they moved to the next page, what we're calling the letter preview page, effectively the text that they'd written in the boxes was converted into a letter format. So it had dear so-and-so, it had their details in the top right corner, and it looked like a proper letter. We then added 3 download buttons that on the click of each download button, it would randomize a peer from a database. And each button, when you clicked it, it would download a letter that had that peer's details attached to it. So we gave people the option of downloading 3 letters to individual peers at any one time. And then once people downloaded it, all they needed to do then was go and post it. So we tried to make it as easy and as simple to follow for people, but also still keeping that real sense of like personal storytelling within the journey. I'm sure you're all wondering how we did it. I asked our tech team to fill this slide in before we came. But yes, we used Engage in Networks data capture page, and as mentioned, kind of branded it up and made sure it sort of was designed in a way that felt really easy and simple for a supporter to take. We house a database of the lords that we wanted to contact separately. So there are 750 lords. Not all of them Dignity and Dying would have wanted people to contact if it was people that were like super opposed or we didn't think were like going to show up, for example. So we could kind of cut out all the people that we didn't want to target. But then that database was used to randomly assign peers to those 3 buttons, on the page. When people clicked those buttons, a GA event fired, which would have the peer's name. So in GA, we were able to see like the distribution, basically, of letters who were sent to what peers, which is super important. Obviously, we didn't want 7 million letters going to like Lord Alan Sugar, for example, and not anybody else. And then after people had taken the journey, we made sure that we were kind of creating that feedback loop so we could collect intel on what peers might have come back and said. Maybe people got letters in the post back from peers, or just any kind of intel that might be useful, I guess, to the campaign. So what were the results? I think we kind of teased it in our bio for this anyway, but the bill passed unopposed, which was really brilliant. Obviously, that was the main point of having done this. It was a key kind of political moment and a key moment for Dignity in Dying to kind of further the campaign of getting the assisted dying bill approved and kind of written into law. 5,910 letters were downloaded, and that was an average of 1.8 letters per user. The quick maths people in the room may have already got this far, but that would mean that if we were contacting 750 lords, between 7 and 8 letters were sent to each lord, which is really great, really strong personal stories getting sent and put on the kind of lords' desks. It was really heartening to see that lots of lords actually mentioned the letters that they'd received at the debate itself, and also went on to speak about it. And here are a couple of tweets that Dignity in Dying put out, kind of speaking to those kind of messages that the lords had shared. And I think what's really exciting as well is that obviously we built this tool for a very specific need, which was to get people to write letters for lords around a particular reading of a bill. But now Dignity in Dying have this tool that they can use for contacting any kind of target with a very personalized message. So it could be used for MPs even, but just not kind of using those sort of digital kind of mass action pieces. So yeah, we were really chuffed. So I've got 3 tips for you if this is something that you guys want to take forward. I think the first one here is just keeping it really simple. We did put a lot of content in front of people around this. It is slightly complicated. It's not as easy as just email your MP on this issue. We kind of have to talk around the timeframes of the bill and what the kind of risk is of it not passing and the kind of longer to kind of political sort of situation. So what we did, as I kind of showed with the journey, is splitting it into 3 different steps. We had the sign-up page where you just stick your details in. It's got all the info, and you're kind of committed then once you sort of read through everything on that page to kind of take the next steps. We made it as easy as possible for people to write their letter with these kind of free text form fields and loads of prompts and being make it as personal as possible, but answer these questions in these parameters. And then it was super, at the end, it generates a letter for you, and all you have to do is click a download button and print it off at home. This was, this kind of talked a little bit around how we got people to actually take this action. So I said, ask everybody and then ask them again. Here it was just about volume of letters going to a wide distribution of peers. So as I say, within the journey, people can send letters to 3 peers, but we just kept on asking people to do it. If you've taken it, please do it again. We promoted this tool mainly on email. As mentioned, Dignity in Dying have a really solid email list size, and they're really engaged. So we sent it for people to do that. But then we would send follow-up emails, getting them to do it again, asking them to share it with their friends, and also run Facebook ads as well, just to try and capture new audiences, but also their email list again as a 2-pronged approach. So we use a kind of email list audience there. And then finally, weaving other digital actions into this campaign. Obviously, the end goal was physical letters in the post, but once people have taken action for you, we know that they're going to take another action if we put it in front of them. So we kind of work with Dignity in Dying on kind of creating a different sort of donate page on Engaging Networks, which is a crowdfunder page. And we had this running at the same time. And the crowdfunder was very focused on campaigning and influencing around this decision and this reading that we wanted to kind of mobilize the peers on. So this went alongside the right to a Lord action, and we made sure that we were kind of following up with email comms of anybody who had taken that action, asking them to donate to the crowdfunder to help us kind of keep on keeping up the momentum. And yeah, Dignity in Dying smashed their target of 50,000. They generated just over 55. This was all in quite a short amount of time, kind of in a number of sort of 3 weeks or so. So yeah, always ask people to do more stuff for you. And yeah, that's it. A bit of a whistle stop tour, but yes.
I think the thing that I really liked about that was the use of not asking people just to donate money and doing something else, right? People like doing other things.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's quite an interesting action. And I think also the fact that you were taking people behind the curtain and you were like giving them the courtesy of like explaining exactly what it is that's going on and why it's really important, like really bringing them into the movement and into like what you're campaigning for, I think is really motivating, even if it's quite a lot of text on a slide. I think the people that are engaged are going to like want to follow through, yeah.
And I mean, even if it's less than 1% of your supporters that participated in something, that's a very meaningful action across the board.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, nearly 6,000 people doing it was really, we were like really, really pleased with the results. And I think that it's a great foundation for us to keep on doing that, basically. Yeah.
So a few questions here. As peers don't have the power to stop a bill but can only delay it, why did they decide to make peers the key target of your campaign?
It was just the next stage in the campaign, I think, wanting to like garner as much support for the bill. And I think also there's a kind of publicity side of things, being like so many people did support it. I think that was kind of part of it. So it's just, this was a piece in their longer term campaign plan of, obviously, all they're campaigning on is to get this written into law effectively. So kind of moving along the stages of the campaign, basically, yeah. Yeah,
I think what you see in really successful advocacy pushes from organizations is they are involved soup to nuts the entire time through every single piece of it, and anytime there's an opportunity to amplify something that's happening, you're going to jump on it.
Yeah, and they've worked really closely on this bill as well. This is like a very core part of what they do, so yeah.
How did supporters who didn't have printers get involved?
It's a great question. I think we spoke about this at length and about whether we wanted to actually like even engage with that. And I think what we decided was that I think there might have been a piece of copy in it that said something like, there was lots of like, you need to have a printer, like don't go to the next step or come back to this when you have a printer. I think we just basically built that into the journey because I think there are a lot of what ifs with all of this, but the kind of, if we need people to have a printer to be able to take an action, you just need to be upfront about those things, I think. And that's what we had decided in the end, that we just had that basically blazoned on some of the pages, basically, yeah. And in the email content and stuff.
And the worst thing is someone does it, they want to print, they reach out and say, I'm trying to print this thing. And so now you get to have a conversation with a supporter, which is a really impactful thing that you get to have with that person. Even at the end of the day, we can't figure out how to get the thing printed. It's still an interaction that's important.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we just wanted, I think ultimately we still had the goal though, which was kind of letter writing. So yeah, you're right. If people want to get in touch, that's great. But equally, that's what we need you to do this thing, and that's what that's what we're kind of aiming to do. Yeah.
From Amy, it's hard to get people to physically do something. What was the main incentive to get them to post the letters, or was it simply targeting most engaged supporters?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting thing that we weren't really sure how it was going to go, basically. I think, to be totally honest, it was something that we've done for the first time, that kind of the online to offline. Getting people to do things physically is really, really challenging. But we were kind of banking on this kind of piece of insight that like this was the only shot that we've got at kind of mobilizing peers is by physical content. So that's kind of what we went off. In terms of who we targeted, we sent it to their full list, but as mentioned, their list are super engaged around taking campaign actions. Because Dignity in Dying are a campaigning organisation, a lot of their actions are centred around taking campaigning actions. There's also a subset of people who are Dignity in Dying supporters who are members, and that's quite a big group of people as well within their kind of email database. So we typically know that members are going to be more motivated to take actions. So I think that it is probably quite likely that most of the people that took the action are members, but that sort of didn't really matter. I think we just wanted to give anybody the opportunity to do it. So yeah.
It's a real good opportunity. A lot of people really focus on the people that like are donating all the time and they're recurring donors. And I think there's a miss a lot if you're not focusing on the people who are doing all of your advocacy actions and all of your engagement actions.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think also segmentation is good up to a point, but I think when you have a short amount of time to get as many people to do something for you as possible, putting it out to the biggest possible audience is probably the best way to go, I'd say. I think obviously segmentation is really important at some stages, but I think given sort of when you're in tight timelines, you just, you need to go full steam ahead, I think, yeah.
From Joe, do you think MPs could be impactfully engaged using a similar digital to offline tool?
I hope so. I think we want to test this. I think that we know that mass email actions are impactful, and you can get lots of people taking that action, and that's really brilliant. But I think the more that that's used, the less impactful it becomes. So I think where you've got very, very key specific issues, or you have a very specific set of target MPs, I think this could be like really, really powerful, a really powerful tool to be talking to people in this way, rather than them receiving sort of hundreds of the kind of templated email in their inbox. So yeah, I think this is something that we're like really keen to test with other partners, and it might be something that we even test with Dignity Undying around different targets as well.
And I think having a focus around your advocacy work, just like your fundraising work, just like your engagement work, there shouldn't be like digital is over there and then like offline is over there and they're like doing different things. I know when I was, in the lobbying space, we wanted to know when I was going to meet with a senator, I knew exactly how many letters that person got, from my organization before I walked in that door. I know that they got 1,723 emails to target about like an issue, and I can bring that as like a point, like, all of our support, like we have this many supporters who have emailed you and are waiting for a response from you, and it's very impactful to have those things working in conjunction together. They're not separate things that exist in space.
Yeah, totally. And I think maybe one thing I should have mentioned is that Dignity Undying have quite an active direct mail kind of arm as well. So they contact their members via direct mail. So I think that there is also sort of, that has kind of been built in, that kind of physical comms has kind of been built into sort of the work that they do as well, and the way that supporters know to engage with them. So I think that probably also kind of like lended itself well here. But I think you're right. Yeah. Like, just, go full pelt with what you can, I think, in terms of when it's like a very, very timely, important issue.
Has Dignity Undying ever done a click to call, like a calling type action?
Not that I'm aware of, no. I know it's something that we have spoken about. I know that there's functionality in engaging networks to do that. I think that is really, that might be something to like potentially employ when we're like very much like the campaign is like very much in its final stages, that kind of place, I think.
And I think we've seen a similar level of results of 1% of supporters doing something like that, but it's a very impactful 1%, which is the thing that you kind of have to realize as you're going through that. So, from Aaron, did you find a physical mass hand in? Did you find that a physical mass hand in by the charity would have performed less well than individual sending by supporters? So you come in with like, here's your stack of letters, Pierre Johnson.
Yeah, it's not something that I have like a specific answer on. It's something, again, I think it's something that's like worth testing. So for example, recently Dignity Undying have had an open letter action, and then they handed it in to the First Minister, which was around meeting one of the supporters with a key kind of a personal story that they wanted to share and have a meeting with Hamza Yusuf about. And that was like a kind of hand in of an open letter. I think in this case, as I say, it was more a time sensitivity thing. Like we literally had a cutoff where we were going to pull, that we had to sort of stop the comms to this action because the letters weren't going to arrive in time. I think it's much more about, we just wanted to churn out as many as possible in a short amount of time. But I think that's really interesting, and like I don't have an answer, but if anyone does have an answer, I'd be like really interested to hear. But I think it's all about testing these things, basically.
Speaking of the testing, a prompt here for you to chat about. Did you A/B test your results with a digital campaign to get comparative analysis of which one performed better?
We didn't. In this case, we were really kind of dead set on a physical letter being the way to go in this campaign. So that's what we built out. And I know that you can do email to Lords, within Engaging Networks. It's not something that I've actually personally worked on that much, but I know that is an action. So again, I think if it's something that you're thinking about investing in and you want to get a learning on that, I would just recommend testing it, as you say. Yeah.
And I would almost dispute the premise of the question, right? You should just be doing both, if that makes sense for the campaign that you're doing. You shouldn't just do both, but if that makes sense for what you're trying to do. In this case, it sounded like that wouldn't have been effective because peers aren't managing their email, and it would be much more difficult for them to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, last question here. Can you tell us more about how you collected feedback to the action? Was that part of the supporter journey?
Yes, it was. So anybody who took the action, we sent an email out with a survey to complete. And I think we just have a few kind of questions, like did they post their letter? Have they had any feedback? That kind of thing. Again, with this, I think this campaign is quite sort of unique in the sense of the time. I keep on talking about the time sensitivity, but there was a very kind of hard deadline that we needed people to do this for, and we kind of also, within quite a short amount of time, Dignity in Dying were able to know if the bill had been passed through or not. So we were trying to collect feedback within that kind of time frame, but there wasn't a sort of ongoing onwards journey for this campaign. But as I say, Dignity in Dying have an incredibly frequent and engaging email program for their supporters, and as I say, always have lots of actions and kind of meaningful things for supporters to do. And I think also making sure that you're celebrating your wins with your supporters is really important. So when people have taken this action, making sure that you're then kind of going to talk to them and say, you helped us get this bill passed unopposed, and you can kind of give them updates, but not kind of keeping them on separate journeys, then sort of bringing them back into this is where the campaign is at a bigger level, and these are the things that we're asking them to do, and this is where next, and stuff like that.
And just celebrating across the board, right?
Yeah.
You had, yes, this group of supporters, and they can get segmented email, but everybody is going to want to know if this impacts.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.